Good evening, race fans. Welcome to episode 18 of the Area 51 Racing Podcast. Tonight's guest is Chad Harrington of Mattman Designs. He's a repeat guest of ours, the first repeat guest that we've had here on the Area 51 Racing Podcast. Tonight joining me is co-host Dave. How are you doing, Dave?
Doing well, Rob. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. How are you doing tonight, Chad?
Doing pretty well. It's just been one of those busy days and crazy days, and reeling off a good weekend close by with good action this weekend.
Well, that's good. So the last time you were on was episode 5. A lot of things have changed with our podcast. We've obviously gone through some growing pains and stuff, and we've added Dave as a new co-host. Justin Sharpie, he was busy with work, so he stepped away, and then we had to go another route with the other gentleman. I can't think of his name for the life of me right now, sorry, but he took a job with an Xfinity team doing PR, so it was a conflict of interest for him. So welcome back, and sorry we cut you short the last time, but
hey, that's quite all right. Sometimes you just got to do that.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start out with tell us about the services Mattman Designs has to offer.
Well, we do a lot of work for the race teams. I guess you'd say it's my niche market, and we put the mats inside the haulers, outside the haulers, and inside the race shops. And now we've gotten, because there's so many of them that have went in there, we've expanded to putting race themed design stuff in RVs and campers and right outside the doors. I know Ray Stevens of Flying Form, he's got one right outside of his that he takes with him that is a rubber scraper mat that is fully photographic in nature with one of his Flying Form cars on there and the Flying Form Racing logo. We offer solid mats, and now this year we've opened it up to where we're doing the merchandise for some race teams and offering hats, koozies, the 10 by 10 and 10 by 20 pop-up tents to where you can print on all 4 sides of those and customize it for yourself. The big 2 foot wide by about 14 foot tall feather flag that can be printed on both sides so that it actually is able to be seen from quite a ways away. And I've probably done 4 good racing t-shirt designs, and one of which will be here to my house hopefully by the end of next week, and we will be getting some pre-orders for those a week or so in advance, and it will be the Alliance theme retro back for the Darlington race weekend. And I've done quite a few dirt shirts for dirt car teams local, and working with one series right now doing a shirt for them.
Now, so you've been pretty busy. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. Yes. Go ahead.
Yep. So where do all your fans need to go to be able to get some of your merchandise and swag? And
we don't actually have any with just Mattman. We produce it for everybody else. So when they are able to see it, most of the racers themselves, they market the fact that they've got the shirts, and you would go to the local track or order through their web page or their Facebook, wherever they would put it out there for you. Sometimes, X is a little different, but Instagram and Facebook seem to be where everybody seems to put their shirts up there if you want one and whatnot. But you can always go to the Mattman Designs Facebook or Instagram page and see where we've shared those same links, and you may be able to see a design on some things that you might like to pick up and use yourself, or support that local race team just because it's a cool design shirt or a possible hat that's out there.
I've definitely got way too many dirt track shirts just because they were cool. I can't tell you how many times I went to my local dirt track and had no idea, what I was getting myself into. And I'm like, oh, look, one with a wing sprint. Hey, look, there's super late model, and you $20, and you're like, all right, I can get a hat, and then all of a sudden you get another shirt, and that's definitely a good way to pick up stuff that is cool to you. That's what I love about that type of stuff.
Yeah, and if you're a race fan like one of my friends and fellow flagman is, he searches eBay for all sorts of vintage versus dirt shirts and everything, and you're liable to find some. He got duped the other day, though. I'm going to tell on him, and he'll probably laugh when he comes back to listen to it. He thought it was a Billy Moyer shirt, and when he got it in the mail and opened it, it was a Billy Moyer Jr. shirt.
Nice.
But he's even got, I think he's gotten a few that were back in the old days of where the shirts were first being done and everything, and they were the wedge nosed dirt late models.
Okay.
And these things are pretty awesome. And he said they are in great condition and whatnot because he will actually wear them out to a race when he goes. I kind of envy him. I ain't ever looked for the shirts like he does, but he looks all the time. And being a big fan and going back in my days as far as it is, some of those shirts would be very, very cool to have because I had them when I was a kid, right?
Right.
I couldn't wear them now, but it'd be cool to have that shirt again.
Right. No, I've done the same thing. Growing up, I lived just outside of Detroit, and my father worked with a guy that ran figure eights, super late models, and then had a ARCA car that he would run locally. Well, so I got to go to all these events and get shirts and hats, and everybody wants to give a little kid a signature. I wish I would have a small percentage of that stuff back. And I can remember one guy, Joey Fair, and everybody hated the guy, but he had the bright orange #1 car, and I was probably his only fan in the whole grandstands. He was one of those guys that won every single week, and everybody hated. Kind of like either a Jeff Gordon or an Earnhardt. You were either one or you were the other.
Right. I understand those days, and it didn't matter which local track you went to because we would go to some on Friday and some on Saturday, and whichever track you always had in every class, the one everybody loved, the one everybody loved to hate, and then everybody else had their sprinkles, and what part of the family and friends showed up to support that one guy.
Oh yeah.
And then a couple of years later, they became that guy that was either loved to death or love to be hated at that time.
Yeah. That's the cool thing about grassroots racing. You got the fans, and then you got the rivalry on the track, and then you got them off the track between the fans and the families and stuff. And that's cool to see. I was going to say one of my buddies is huge into dirt racing, and he honestly has a closet. He probably has, I conservatively, probably 300 to or more dirt racing t-shirts.
That's an addiction.
It's nuts. I joked with him one time. I said, "Oh, I'm a Shane Clanton fan." Like we were talking before we went live. A dirt car, a 26 Pontiac GTO, I believe he still runs. And I asked him about that. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I can look." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got like this, and this." I was like, "Holy cow!" I mean, it's crazy. Every once in a while, he'll post on Facebook. He'll go, "Oh, I'm selling off some of my shirts." I'm like, "Some? I mean, what's some? Like 100?" But
no, I mean, you gotta think now. The guy that I'm talking about, He might find a deal on them because somebody's looking to get rid of them. But if he's got that many shirts and all of a sudden you find this obsession about somebody's got to find that shirt, so that they can have it because they at one point saw it and somebody else was wearing it at the track and they had to have it. He might have paid $20 for it or 15 back in the day. That joker finna get paid 35, 40, $50
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
he still has it.
Yeah, there's a gentleman that follows our podcast, I believe. He goes by Racing Jason. He's big in the dirt racing. He's on, that's his handle on social media. He came across a Jeremy Clements dirt late model t-shirt
Oh my
from back
gosh.
in the day.
I bet it was
I don't know.
orange with some fluorescent yellow on it too.
Yeah, I believe I wish I could do the screen share because I would pull it up, but I'm not obviously talented enough to be doing all this computer stuff like Bobby does, which I give him huge props because he is able to do all this stuff and manage everything. Speaking of Bobby, I forgot to mention he's on vacation this week in Florida. That's why Dave and I are here running the podcast tonight. So, but when you said Matt that, or I'm sorry, Matt, Chad, that you did the shirt for the Darlington throwback to the Robert Presley car.
Yes.
That's for Jeremy Clements. You were the Jeremy Clements throwback. I know the last time when you were on, you were talking about that you were going to get with Jeremy and do talk with him and see if he wanted to have you do some merch and stuff for him to sell on his own website, race team website.
Right.
Is that something that you're going to have available on his website for sale, or is that just a limited thing?
No, it is a limited thing, but it is going to be available on his website through his website only.
Okay.
And if you want me to, I can do the screen share for you so that you can actually see.
I think I gave you
everybody
permission when I went through it to do the screen share, so I think you're good.
All right, so here's the front of the shirt.
Awesome.
And let's scroll over to the back of the shirt.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that is so cool.
That is awesome. Yeah, it was cool when we had Tate and LJ on the podcast. They revealed this livery that they were going to run it at Darlington, and they actually had Robert Presley call in, and
that's awesome.
Talk with him about Darlington and that throwback, and then actually we were surprised Jeremy called in and we talked to him that night too about it. So that was a pretty epic night that night when they revealed that, and we got to talk to a NASCAR legend that had a lot of success at Darlington, and Robert Presley. So,
well, the cool part is I ended my Talladega weekend stopping at the east version of the exit out of there, where it's like exit 173 to I-20 going toward Atlanta. Stopped at the store, and lo and behold, I picked up the old school 164th Alliance Robert Presley hauler from just the tent that was out there for $15.
wow.
No kidding.
Yes, sir. I did.
That was a steal. That is pretty cool.
I just thought it was fitting, knowing what I had done, worked on the car, seen the car, knew everything about the car, and then that hauler was sitting there. It's like, yep, got to get it.
So the cool thing is also that night on the podcast, Tate from Alliance Driveaway Solutions, who's doing the throwback to Robert Presley, actually is restoring one of his actual Alliance trucking cars in that livery.
That's
and
awesome.
he's gonna have it at Darlington, if I remember correct, right, Dave? I think he said that's what
Yep,
they're gonna have it at Darlington.
yep, he's
So,
gonna do the reveal. What what caught me off guard was he's actually keeping it a V6 car, which absolutely blew my mind. You know,
That is one thing, knowing that V6, right? I mean, I went to so many Bumblebee NASCAR races from the way that those things sounded, back in the late 80s and early 90s.
yep.
And all of these car manufacturers today, which ones really put V8s in these cars, right? I mean, why don't they just knock them all down to V6s again, even in the Cup Series, and let's quit restricting these jokers. It takes some tire away and let them spin and have a little good time with it.
Well, that was actually going to be part of my race recap that I absolutely hated for this weekend was, now I'm watching all the podcasts, from the drivers on Monday, and they're saying that we're not out there racing. We're at Talladega running 45 to 60% throttle the whole race. It's become fuel mileage. And
Mm-hmm.
for me as a fan, it's NASCAR. I want to see those guys out there doing 200 mile an hour, and be able to pass each other. So I like what you're saying as far as, hey, let's give them what they want, smaller up the tire, because they said that, they're getting no tire wear and they can turn left, they can turn right, they can do anything they want except for pass another car.
Well, and I've got another solution for that too, but I know that NASCAR won't ever listen to me, but hey, whatever. But if it's going to be the engineers and the computers that drive these races and they're going to go to the fuel and do 45 to 50%, well, guess what? Put a 7.5 gallon fuel cell and see how far they go and how many times they have to pit.
I like it.
yeah, I agree. Like Dave, I listened to a bunch of podcasts and different social media things this week too after Talladega. I was going to say the same thing. They're complaining about, they can only go half speed, and they're basically riding around the whole race, and it's just not racing. I think Kyle Busch came out and flat out, or it was either him or Denny Hamlin, one of the two, just flat out said, this is just stupid. We're just driving around. We're not racing. We're driving around.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was Denny Hamlin. I just watched his this morning.
Yeah.
He was saying how, that, everybody you would wreck everybody if you went out there and ran 100%. He goes, that's why you would get such a run, or look like on TV, you would get such a run, coming off the corner. Well, you were just going a little faster than the guy in front of you. It wasn't that you got a run. You just actually pressed on the accelerator more than the guy in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
aggravating.
well, what happens if Team Toyota decides that when they go to Daytona that they don't want to ride around at 55 seconds every lap like certain people like to go up front and slow the pack down, right? Well, all the Toyotas get together, find a way to get together. They pit a little early, and then they run full flat F and out and make the others do the same thing and throw caution to the wind. Why can't they do that? I
Well,
mean, the biggest part is who's going to stop them if they do?
they tried that, and they actually did throw a caution to the wind. When they pitted
Literally.
her, and nobody wanted to go nose to tail.
Yeah. And then they ended up wrecking.
Yeah.
And Eric, I just read today, sadly, Eric Jones has got a fracture in his lower back.
Yeah.
So he's out indefinitely. And I guess from what it sounds like, Corey Heim is going to be stepping in to his ride as he's their Toyota's backup driver for.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but I mean, you don't have to have all of them. I mean, they could have easily went with not the legacy, and it could have just been 23XI and Joe Gibbs Racing, right? But the ones that were that was doing everything. They didn't have to have all of them. Or if Denny knew that up front, maybe he talked to his own teammate and he said at a certain time, if my guys go down and tell you to pit on a certain lap, this is what we're going to do. And him and his two team cars could have just went and done that themselves. And he trusts those other two guys, right? A lot more than he might trust some of the other ones. But you can do anything like that if you set your mind to it for that. And I'll bring this back. Dale McDowell told me one day at Dixie Speedway when I asked him, why in hot laps were you out there running at the top? Everybody else is still screaming around the bottom. He said, well, we can all run around in the same line for the feature and really piss off the fans. Or if I want to pass, I go out here and create this second groove so that we have a racetrack that we can run to and possibly 3 wide later on in the corners to make passes. He said there's a handful of us that do that and the rest of them follow the leader. And he said, I would rather have somewhere to pass. It's just the mindset that they got to have.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, you're as far as all that goes, I mean, you're getting firsthand information, and tell us a little bit about being up on the flag stand, because you see it, straight away, people going from the top to the bottom at your local dirt tracks.
Yeah, and I can say even the views of the way racing was when I first started flagging full time back around 2002 till now, it's even changed in local racing to the traveling tours. Used to, the money was at a level to where the money dictated the number of laps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, but when you see it, 10,000 to win doesn't dictate 100 laps anymore.
Right.
30 laps is basically your 10,000 to win, right? So the fan sees that they only get 30 laps for the same $10,000. And the drivers say that, well, we still getting paid the same thing as we was in 1993. Well, of course you're getting paid the same, but you're not running the same amount of laps. But also too, the technology and the equipment has quadrupled in price since 1993, right? So when it cost, say, $218 and certain cents per lap that you spend at a dirt track, when you get 3 hot laps, a warm-up lap or partial lap and 2 qualifying laps, your 8 laps in your heat race. If you didn't make it, you got another 10 laps in a B main, and then whatever the feature is that night, it could be 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 75, right? But most of your big shows now don't even go over 75 unless they're the real crown jewel races that are 100 laps apiece, and most of them have to pay 50,000 to win or more. But you even see the drivers themselves talk about how different you have to race now, as somebody used to would bide their time and win a 50-lap race. Well, now the 50-lap race is all out sprint. You better get to that checker flag faster than anybody else, because there's 7 or 8 that's going to hound you to do it right behind you. And that's if you are lucky enough to catch one that goes green all the way. Every time there's a caution and they stack them up double file now, that's changed the game compared to that single file stuff back in the early 2000s. I mean, these guys go after it like a dog eat dog world, and they ain't but one bone left. And they will go in there and put it 3 wide, and they'll tell you that 8 tires and 12 tires stop you and make you turn a lot better than just the 4 that you got on your own car. So,
yeah, I think that was an old Dale Senior quote.
Yep.
8 tires is better than 4.
I believe it was. And go ahead, Dave.
But yeah, even the guys you were mentioning that at the even local dirt tracks, when Kyle Larson pretty much boycotted the Chili Bowl because they were making so much money off for advertising, because they got Seabell there, Larson, Sweet, all your top guys, and the drivers were getting paid what they were getting paid, 5-10 years ago, you know, and the car, like you said, technology has all, you can't be a small team anymore and go out to tracks like that unless you win it. You're out there to win it. Records or checkers, for the
Right.
smaller team.
I had one day dirt late model team owner tell me in February, he said, all of these races that we're racing at that are paying less than 10,000 to win, you either win it or finish second to make money. Every third, fourth, and fifth may break even. Everybody else lost money just because they dropped the trailer. Dropped the lift gate down on the trailer. And if you got 70 people there and only 2 people are making money, well, I can promise you the track made money.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you get to these bigger events to where you think you ought to have the car count and you only get 30 cars there, or you get in some cases 18 or 16 or maybe 20 at the most, and you're expecting a 24 car field as a promoter or a series guy, right? But yet you're running a 40 lap feature and it's paying 10,000 to win, and you're drawing only that amount of cars. Well, that's when the promoter might break even, because he had to still pay out the purse up to that, but he just didn't have to pay out anything past that point. It's gotten to a point that it's crazy on both directions. And I can tell you right now, the Xfinity and truck teams do not make nowhere near enough money to put on a show. And the Xfinity cars put on the best racing at most of your tracks.
Amen.
And the trucks are behind that. And the cup cars, it's almost like 4-wheel fendered F1. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to go into too much more than that, but the politics, the team orders that happen behind closed doors that nobody knows about, it may not happen at the racetrack, but I guarantee it happened Thursday before they flew out.
And Larson was just talking about that. I don't think it was on a podcast, but I think it was just an interview of him sitting in his car, and he was obviously driving IndyCar, for the 500, and he was talking about how the next gen car almost drives like an Indy car, and I can remember when it was absolutely celebrated that somebody like Tony Stewart, I sprinkle in a little Danica, but you could go from racing an Indy car, which the Days of Thunder quote, you got a car that's weighs half as much, tires are twice as big, and now we're running pretty much the same size tire as the Indy car, and he's saying that it handles, and the wash on the nose, he goes, these things handle better than our or our next gen cars handle better than the Indy car, and back in my heyday, I remember the big talk was you could flip a IndyCar upside down while it was running and it would still stick to the track. I mean, that to me is crazy. I understand. I understand Larson's very, 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 a good driver, but the aerodynamics and everything like that, and I think all 3 of us hosts agree that Xfinity and truck is probably the most exciting to watch. I'll actually set my schedule around, Friday nights and Saturdays and Sundays anymore. I might go out and mow their yard while, Cup's on. Where it used to be, that was my weekend. I was going to watch the Cup Series and probably a little bit of Xfinity, but now it's completely changed.
Yeah. I can say the same thing. The Xfinity I watch because They slide more. They are on the wheel more. The Cup cars, I watch it on replay Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
almost like
they got a great YouTube channel, you know.
yeah,
It's
it's
put it up
almost like
there every Tuesday.
it's almost like you're watching IMSA racing. I mean, with the Cup Series. I mean, realistically,
At,
that car
at the
is
road
probably
course, it really is.
close to that. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I won't say which driver said this, but being that I get a chance to talk to a lot more of them than most people do, from just saying I'm just a regular guy. You know, it's not like I own one of these Fortune 500 companies. I own a little bitty small business, right? Um, he said that it's just like the same thing that they run for IMSA with a stock car body versus an exotic car body. Um, why they needed that much tire to make it go, he'll never know. Um, he said he wished that it would be like a super late model, right? It's got a basically almost 1,000 horsepower now, but it's unlimited cubic inch all aluminum. But if you take those 12-inch wide tires off and put 8-inch wide tires on it, like the 406 and 410 same engines that you could run in an open wheel modified, you sure do get a lot more tire spin. The cars don't handle because the tire width. He said we got way too much rubber on the racetrack. He said it's really pathetic to know that your rear wheel is bigger than your front wheel. They're not the same size, but yet all dirt and everything are all the same size. Indy cars are different for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like so I don't remember who it was. I saw on a social media post that they were saying the reason why the tires are so big on the new Cup car is because the teams wanted the bigger brakes or bigger calipers and rotors. So I think they have 6 piston calipers now on the Cup cars. I could be wrong, but that's the reason why they went to the bigger tire. And then since they went to the bigger radius of tire, that they wanted to go to a wider tire too, for I guess more stability, traction, whatever. And
And
I
you
don't
just
know.
answered why the racing sucks.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. I mean,
go back to Martinsville in the 80s and 90s. I mean, or heck, any dirt late model team now, they can still have brake issues and stuff like that. You see that on the flag stand. I mean, you get a piece of dirt in there, and all of a sudden one brake don't work, right? You go to Martinsville in the 80s and 90s, they blew those O-rings out and the brakes failed. I mean, parts failures need to happen in racing. This is not slot cars to where you can just run it around and run it around and run it around until you just burn the motor all to hell and back, you know? I mean, this is true form racing. There needs to be parts failures on things. It happens all the time on dirt, happens on the super late models on asphalt. It's just a matter of what they don't break a lot of stuff because some things are made better now than what they used to, of course, because of the technology, right? The shocks work better. And then you've got these super shocks that's got these canisters on them now that you see the dirt late models have, but most of them are single barrel shocks and stuff. They don't have these gas pressurized shocks on everything. You can't run them on everything, but you still have parts failures. And if you go in there and hit something, you could bend one of those shafts on any one of those shocks. It's still going to be a parts failure.
Yeah, I can remember just on my dad's figure eight car, it was a monotube Monroe strut shock. That was it. And then you adjusted your coil on it, you know, and that was it. That's all the fidgeting you had was literally pressing down on a spring to get the car as low as you could, or as high, or a rebound. But there was no rebuilding shocks, and you might throw a set of high performance spindles or something like that on there, if you had the money. But most of the stuff was still stock car.
Yeah, that's where I can go back as being a big fan and knowing some of these guys are in Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame and stuff that I got to watch growing up as a kid. These guys would tell you if you didn't work on your stuff, you wasn't going to win. And you had to work on it every day. And then they'd go race Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and work on it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But there was one racer that would tell you if he can't push his car around his shop, out of his shop, back it up and turn it by himself and whatnot, his car is not rolling free enough with the wheel bearings and the rear end and everything so that it will go fast for him when the track is green.
Wow. That's
interesting.
And I see that still today, and how many people are pushing the cars to pit road, right? It cracks me up sometimes to know that it takes 3 or 4 people to push a 2,300 pound dirt late model. It takes 5 or 6 to push an Xfinity or a Cup car, but that stuff is not turning as free as it should. And I go back to the 70s, and a man said in the 70s will tell you that about how he set his car up to make it roll so that it was not binding up anywhere. Where's all this? Well, we got to do this, this, and this, and got to have bigger, got to have better, and whatnot. No, you need to work on it a little bit more and make sure it works properly.
One thing I did see at Talladega a little more was the cars were skewed a little bit. And that's the first time I think I've seen the next gen car be skewed, where going down the back straightaway, they had to be careful bumping because, they weren't sitting direct. They had just a hint of it where, and say, even going back to, say, Dale Earnhardt Jr., when they went back, down there, the cars looked like they were going sideways, especially during qualifying to get all the air off the rear splitter. And then you had just a little contact patch going down the straightaways, and then all the rubber going around the corners.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys have seen that or not, but it's just something I just happened to notice.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, Dave. I'll have to go back and watch that. I didn't notice that. I mean, it's very pronounced, and with the trucks, you can really tell how skewed the body is on the trucks. It is crazy.
The right side on a truck is like the right side on a dirt late model. It's meant to shave air this way toward the outside wall. I don't know why, but it's the way that it goes down there and behind the door, and then it takes a right hand angle toward the back. And that, I mean, if you look at a dirt late model left side, it does this and then hooks and goes back the other way. It's the same thing, but it's a big old sideboard, and both of them are that way. Because it's aluminum, straight down. But that too, since you've mentioned that is something that's really cool about being on the flag stand. You can see aero differently when those guys come off of turn 4 and head directly at you. You can see who's been tinkering with a body, but it still fits the rules, right? But you can see where what may be giving them a little bit of an edge tonight, because it just seems to be the air and the way that everything is just flowing off of that car, giving them a little extra bite on that right rear and that left rear to where they can go. But you get to see that during qualifying, and if the leader starts leading enough to where they're gapped in second or third, but you don't see it as much when you get ready to throw green flag and all of them sit sideways. You're watching the whole field come at you. It's like an adrenaline rush, and you don't pay attention to that as much as you do the whole field just being crunk up, getting to be full song right underneath you before they let off, and try not to go in the corner and stack them up and sit them on top of one another. But we've had a few cool moments up there, and there's been a couple of scary ones to where you're sitting there watching and all of a sudden it's almost like unreal because stuff slows down on you. I have been to where it's almost surreal to say that the rock coming at you is like going in slow motion, and you just sit there and you look like you're part of the matrix moving out of the way. And then there's sometimes that you'll see something, it'll happen so fast that you stand there in awe before you actually hit the yellow light or whatever, throw the flag and then say, oh God, I got to turn the green off and turn the yellow back on.
And
So do you have to, oh, I'm sorry, Dave. I was just gonna, with the rock deal, I know at some tracks I've seen where a flagman actually got hit in the head with a rock and they got injured. And then like a week later, the track put up like a piece of plexiglass or like a screen, or even some cases now I've seen where the flagmen have helmets on. Is that something that you have to protect you, or is that up to you to do? Or
most of your dirt tracks have good Lexan, and they'll replace it about every 5 years because it gets brittle after that. So, like Atlanta Motor Speedway, when I flag Legends and Bandoleros there, that's just open right out the get-go, but it's on asphalt. It's a little bit different. On asphalt tracks, you really don't get the dirt and grime and rocks and everything like you would at a dirt track, to where you would need the extra protection. I understand why they do it in NASCAR and put the helmet on, because when they're wrecking at 200 mile an hour or 188 or whatever they may be going in some places, and the parts are moving down that way from where they're dispersing from the car, you might want to have that noggin in a shield of some sort so that it doesn't hurt half as bad. But on dirt, we don't usually do it, but you'll always see me with eye protection on one way or another.
Yeah, my local dirt track here at Carolina Motor Speedway, Bobby, who's the gentleman's name that runs the flag stand there, he looks like he just hopped off a dirt bike. He's got the full Fox helmet, goggles, chest protector, because unfortunately I have seen, people get struck up on the flag stand, and, the poor kids, hanging outside the fence. I don't think the parents understand that when they crank it down in turn one, they get a rooster tail, and, kids down there playing, it just gets lucky.
Yeah, that is 100% fact. There's one thing that I will always have when I go to a dirt track, and you'll never see it, but I do wear a cup.
Really?
As if I was a catcher. You don't want to take one there when you don't see it.
That's an instant red flag, right?
I would say that but I've never had to do that for a red flag or anything like that. But yes, now I was in Cleveland Speedway in Cleveland, Tennessee once, and track owner said, "You just let me know if you need anything." And I told him on the radio, I said, "I gotta pee." He said, "Well, throw a yellow. I'll go find something on the track and pick it out while you go pee, and then I'll come on back up and finish the race." So it didn't take long. I did that one night.
I've always wondered that. what, like drivers, they have their race suits, and sometimes they say they just go to the bathroom in their race suits or whatever. But as a flagman, you're up on that stand there, and everybody's watching you, and you're like the one that's running the event. I always wondered how that works if you had to use the bathroom or something. And I mean, sometimes they'll have intermissions like at the track in between, different the features and the heat races or whatever. But yeah, I've always wondered that's interesting. The infamous invisible caution for the debris or invisible debris. That's it.
Right. And I will say this: it did not happen in the main feature for the night. It was, in a support class that the leader had gotten way too far out front anyway, and we wanted to make a better show out of that race because there was only like 5 or 6 cars in the feature. So we did that. I chose the right way to do that for that one, and then it turned into a race after that. So most of the times I will be the man missing in action for the prayer and national anthem, because that's when I take my time to go and use the facilities or make my own and only pit stop for the night. But like if you get in the middle of June, July, August, and it's just sweltering hot, I can drink 4 20-ounce bottles of water, never get off flag stand, because I'll sweat it out. I'm working so hard and sweating so much.
Yeah, I can only imagine that. The reason why I asked you about the helmet deal is actually at one of our local asphalt short tracks. I actually saw the flag guy get corked in the side of the head with a rock, and he had to get, they had to have somebody else take over for him because he had to go to the hospital. And then the next week they put up a shield there to protect him. But yeah, that was pretty scary. And another time it was a bolt that was on the track shot up and hit the flagman also. Just not in the head, it was in the body, but still, I mean, it's crazy. And like Dave said, you get these cars flying around the track and you get these kids up by the fence and stuff. I've seen things where brakes don't work, or the accelerator gets stuck and they're headed right into the wall and right where the kids are playing. And that's never a good thing. But that brings me to another thing. Lately, or just recently on social media, there was a video at a dirt track where a sprint car, 2 of them bumped together. It was on the backstretch, thank God, I think it was between 3 and 4, and they bumped tires, and this sprint car launched like way off the track. I was like in awe when I saw the video how far it went, and I'm thinking to myself, thank God there were no stands there or people or kids, because it would have landed right in the middle of all that. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I saw a video at Knoxville. I think it was at the Nationals one year, where a guy, I think it was a sprint car, if I remember right, got launched out over into the Casey's parking lot across the street. It's crazy. You never know. So, but
well, I mean, I've been on the flag stand for some even crazier ones. I've seen tires go over turns 1 and 2 at East Alabama Motor Speedway, bounce over the pit area outside of turns 1 and 2, go into the parking lot, and stick into the rear window of somebody's truck that's out there just where they parked, just so they could go in the pits, and then we actually had a wreck for, I don't remember what year it was, but it might have been 2015. Open wheel modifieds decided that they were going to get into it and flip and whatnot. And when they got done, both of them were like this.
Oh, goodness.
Holy cow.
And we actually they had to go get an excavator to hold one up while they got the other one down, and they had to get the bulldozer to let the other one down because they were just stuck up like two big old side, like I guess two trees that were just pinned together like this. I mean, it was nuts, but it was almost funny by the way that they were rolling, and then they just stopped like that, and it was like, you got to be kidding me. And red light goes on. An hour later, we resume that race. Took about that long to get it done. And I've
Yeah,
seen many of them from the flag stand. Oh, we're gonna get out of here early, and they take off with their truck and everything and go out there, and they get stuck over the track because they took the wrong angle and get their get their daggum trailer hung at the top of the track at the exit gate on the back. I mean, if it's happened over the last 20 some odd years, I've probably seen it from the flag stand once, if not twice.
So being a flagman, have you ever had any driver or crew come and like be disgruntled or upset with you after a race to the point where they wanted to fight or make it physical, or I guess?
I'm pretty sure there was an instance at one point in time that there probably could have been one that was that way. Um, and I remember it pretty well. And I'm on a flag stand that's about 15 foot over the top of the wall, and that would probably be about 18 foot, 20, maybe 20 foot over the racing surface, right? So, but he started up, and I said, up the flag stand, I said, you can either leave. I've got 9 flag sticks to break off in your ass, and I'm coming off the top rope coming down for you right now. So it's your choice.
So I'm
And that's the
guessing
only
that
one.
I guess they chose to not take your challenge.
Well, the sheriff's department came up there to the flag stand and got him before I had a choice to take 2 flags in my hand and jump on his chest, but because I already had the red and black flag, so in case it got bloody, it wouldn't show on the black and it wouldn't show on the red, but I wasn't gonna mess any of the other flags up.
I wouldn't take the chance with a flag man because you know I'm gonna see you next week, and I'm gonna you're probably gonna get cross flagged. I'm almost guaranteeing it. You're in somebody's way, and
Well,
that infamous.
I hadn't done anybody like that, but I have, as crazy as it sounds now, I have black flagged somebody for the first time, and they had been racing for 30 plus years and never been black flagged. And I got him and one other guy at the same time for unsportsmanlike conduct and banging him under caution, arguing with one another because one thought the other one spun the other one. Said,
Right.
I don't care which one it is. You got the pits right here. Take off.
So you're saying you wouldn't make it over at Bowman Gray?
No, I'd probably just let whatever happen, and we'll just see what goes from there.
I'm saying if he was at Bowman Gray, he'd be going through a lot of flags.
I'm assuming so.
It would either be a lot of flags or there'd be a lot of people waiting for me by the truck when I got ready to leave.
I mean,
I would learn quick on that to where I would exit and wouldn't go back to my truck until maybe Sunday, and I'd just call me an Uber for exiting purposes. But I've seen enough stuff at Bowman Gray to know that you have got to be a very, very, very thick-skinned man to be an official there.
Yeah.
Because it's like they don't need any of that drama, but lo and behold, that place just brings it out in the worst of them and the best of them at any point in time.
And it's packed every weekend
Mhm.
because it's a circus. You never know what you're going to see.
Yep.
Right.
Well, now NASCAR apparently bought it, so
That
we'll
ain't
see
gonna
what.
fix that part of it. No, it's not. You you
We'll
just
see
need to
what
look
happens
up all
now.
the you just need to look up all the racetracks in the 80s and 90s that had Winston Cup short track on their walls, as part of the Winston Cup program. It didn't make a difference who owned it, who sanctioned it. If a
Yeah,
fight was coming, that fight was coming. And you got to
yeah,
remember the fights have decreased in the number of decades from the 40s to 50s, 60s on the way till now, because people are more afraid of. There's too many people that conceal carry now that they ain't gonna fight with a knife or whatever, or they're afraid that they're gonna get shot. So it does keep a little bit of it down, but
that was
they might
one of
not
the.
carry it with them, but it's in their truck and they going back for the pit gate. Go
Yep,
get that, if they're mad enough.
that was one of the things I was. The first things I was told when I became a crew member on a race team: do not start anything, and do not get involved in anything that was not related to our team, and never turn your back on somebody that's not happy with you because you might get a hammer to the head or something.
Right. There was never a night that I didn't have one of these in my pocket either.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's and
it's
it's not
crazy.
being and it's not being that or anything like that. I've had plenty of people tell me to hold it a certain way and get them with just that little bit of a tip because that's self-defense.
Yeah, it's hopefully that never has to happen, but
Hey,
now,
you saw how clean and shiny it is. I mean, I hadn't used
yeah.
it yet, so
So
So, so what's coming up in the future for 2024 with you and JCR?
um I know for a fact we have signed up on the sponsor list for Daytona and October Talladega.
Okay.
We will be possibly, depending on the way some other things work out this year, maybe have a chance to do one, maybe two others.
Okay.
Um, Business is very good and it's well beyond what I could have ever imagined at this point in time. Especially since I've not just did the one part of the mats and I'm doing the shirt designs, the banners, because I design all of his banners that goes on the pit box and pit wall, and the associate banner that gets put up on the truck when they do get to pit inside the facility. Um, I'm hoping that we get at least two more good design shirts out this year.
Okay.
Um, the next one that I know that I will be working on will be the flying form version
the
that they're running.
Mark Martin throwback,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
awesome. Mark
Me and
Mark
Ray talked
Martin's,
about.
yeah, Ray when he was on the podcast, he revealed that throwback too. And I don't know if you can see off to my right over here.
Oh yeah, you're a Mark
A
Martin fan.
huge Mark Martin fan. I grew up watching him as a kid at the local short track. He come up here and race and here in southeast Wisconsin, and I to this day I still follow him on social media, and the guy is just amazing. Between him and his son Matt, they do a great job to keep the history of his dad, Mark's racing alive and stuff. And I don't know. I guess I'm a Mark Martin fanboy, I guess you could say.
Well, I geek out at Mark Martin from time to time because I am a fan. But we went to Atlanta Motor Speedway spring of '97. It was the last Busch Grand National race on the oval configuration. My son was not even 2 yet, and we go and my dad went with us, so we had the first 3 generation of Harrington right there at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And my son's first words were race car. It was not mama. It was not daddy. Pissed mama off, of course. And his favorite was real quick, Mark Martin. Mark Martin. It was Mark Martin. And I stood him up on the top of the concrete and he was holding on to the fence. And Mark Martin and Steve Park walked out. And, Steve Park was driving the 3AC Delco car at the time before Junior got it. So he was there and he saw Mark Martin, and kid ain't even 2 yet and screaming out of his lungs, Mark Martin, Mark Martin. And Mark Martin turns and waves at him because the Xfinity garage at the time was real close to turn 4, and there was not a lot of people around us where we were standing. And he knew that kid, my son, Alex, was yelling his name, and he waved at him and pointed and then kept waving at him. And then he turned his head back forward, but he looked dead at him. And, it just made my day that he did that for that. But you go back and look and Mark's career and everything. And then when you see somebody ask him a question on Twitter, or X now, sorry, what springs did you run here? And what was the track like here? And that joker can remember every race better than a historian can, and especially about his own car and what he did with it and what his dad helped him set it up like. And then when he got old enough to do it himself, it was all him setting the cars up and everything. He's a mechanical genius when it comes to a race car. Nobody gives him the credit for it that he deserves, but he really is. And you could say the same thing about Rusty Wallace and the way that he worked on his cars. Between the two of those, if they ever wanted to go into that super late model ASA kind of car and never went to NASCAR, that would have been the next biggest chassis builder and technology center that class of car ever had.
I would have to agree with you about that. Mark, on some podcasts and stuff that I've seen, he talks about how he and Rusty Wallace would talk a lot about racing and their race cars and different things to try. They were trying and that type of stuff. ASA to me back in the day was just as good as NASCAR. Because a lot of the guys were, I guess, to me, I'll put it this way, I guess. ASA back in the day was like the Xfinity series is now to me compared to what Cup is, except the drivers back then, a lot of those drivers became great drivers in NASCAR, and a lot of them are in the NASCAR Hall of Fame now.
Yeah.
All right. It's crazy to think about, and that was the other thing with Mark Martin came, I believe it was, I can't remember the city in Indiana. He moved up from the South so he could race up in the North, up here in Wisconsin and the Midwest and in this area. And because the racing was, good up here, he was good at racing down in the South, but he wanted to race against some better competition or different competition, I guess. And thank God
that was Mike Eddy, Bob Seneca,
yep.
and Dick Trickle. To beat the best, to be the best, you got to beat the best, and he went after that.
Absolutely. And I wish I had remembered as much now that from back then but Dick Trickle, obviously another Wisconsin racer, huge fan of his too. Growing up, watching him race against Mark Martin at our local short tracks, Alan Quickie as well. I have a whole collection of his stuff too. I mean, another Wisconsin driver. Just, I don't know, just really cool time period. I wish we could go back to then. The racing, the cars. I think we've talked about this before, Dave, and with Bobby too, and other guests. Back then, it was so much. It was just cool because you had an OEM basically car that was racing on the track that you could go to your local dealership and buy, and then it progressed to a little bit more of it was still looked like a production car, but it was modified some, but it was still like the sheet, the actual metal. It wasn't fiberglass or something like that. It was when the steel body cars. That's my favorite time of racing. But
it's kind of funny. I've got a couple pictures. Yeah, I've got the Chevy Camaro, and obviously, you've seen a couple of my panels, and then the Camaro bumper behind me. It's not even close anymore. Even with Jeremy's car, like I was messing around with Eric and Emily over at the Racing Warehouse, and I put one of Jeremy's noses up in front of my Camaro, and it was the same body style, vinyl decals on it. Nowhere even close. No, it wouldn't have fit if you hit it with a 2x4.
And
I mean,
and
nowadays,
6 sledgehammers.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, even the short track asphalt cars. I mean, at least when the last I haven't worked on a crew in several years. But the only part of the car that was actual sheet metal was the doors. Everything else was plastic, and then the roof was fiberglass, and the hood, and the back deck lid. Otherwise, everything else was that thick plastic stuff. And
to me, the asphalt super late models now are nothing but the Gen 4 cars, Twisted Sisters that they used to be, and that's what they're racing now. And it's all either aluminum or fiberglass or plastic.
I've got a hood from one of Kyle Busch's KBM super late models, and the inner liner is actually balsa wood.
Yeah,
which I had never even thought of, but it's structurally stable and it's super lightweight.
Well, and what do you think about the super late models now? They got aluminum on the left side. The door and the rear fender on the right side is a fiberglass composite so that it bends back into shape when they hit the wall and rub the wall. And the hood is carbon fiber.
So yeah, I like the composite. As a collector, I don't like it as much because the feel's not there. Because I've got some of some next gen stuff, and I've got obviously most of my Jeremy Clemens stuff is composite. But I like the composite just because a small team like Jeremy can use it more than once.
Correct.
And it's a cast. It comes out identical every single time. And if you ever get a chance while you're at a racetrack, and this is for all the fans, look closely at the especially like the B and C pillars. There's a little hexagram and all that is off of the press.
You can see that in the chicken behind you as part of the rear bumper right there.
Yeah. Yep, actually this little guy right here. You can see the honeycomb inside of it. And and this is 2021, 2022 when he ran the Wings Etc. car at Indy. But I do like that for the smaller teams, just because you can't tug here, pull a little there, drop the jack, bring the skirt out a little bit. I think it evens the playing field. and especially for your short tracks like your dirt track, I don't mind if the passenger side's composite, because if you bump it, it doesn't cost you $3,000 to reskin the whole passenger side of your car.
Correct. But I mean, you as a racing purist, you just seem to like, I don't like the fact that they changed to composite. It takes guys that are like my age of 51 right now, a little while to accept it.
Yeah, I get you.
And then but then when you talk to the teams and they tell you that, yeah, the wrap got ripped off of it 6 times, but it's the same one we've been using since January. Yep. And it hadn't splintered or anything like that for a dirt late model. It's like, okay, I understand that. You paid 4 times as much and you've not replaced it nowhere near as much this year, where you could have already replaced it 6 times. You're still using the same thing, same panel, but at the same time, you've only used 4 pieces of wrap versus the 6 that you would have used if it was all aluminum.
Correct.
So it's saving money on the wrap and the body panel in the long run. Yeah. And I understand where the car owners are wanting this sort of thing, especially for trucks and Xfinity and dirt late models, because it's just a cost burden for a lot of people. And especially on a dirt late model, when you're running anywhere between 80 and 120 shows a year, like some of the guys do that travel all year long.
Yep. And that's what's kind of cool about living around the Charlotte area. Especially where I'm at, I'm only maybe 10 minutes away from the Racing Warehouse. And, I always ask, Eric, hey, when are you going to Jeremy's? Hey, when are you going to Jeremy's? And he's like, well, if everything goes well, he doesn't have a lot for me, and we kind of laugh about that because, if something does hit the market, he can't reuse it,
right.
Other than that, it's, rewrap, a lot of front bumpers, a lot of back bumpers, contingency panels, the rubbing stuff, but you almost never see, I think Bobby probably got the luckiest one, and he got a whole side of the Texas car from last year, the blue Brahma Bull,
right.
And to get a whole side of one of Jeremy's cars is unheard of. It's the only one I know about outside.
It was not wrecked completely.
It's got a couple little scuff marks in it, but yeah,
the other side of the car was wrecked pretty bad, but
yes,
at Vegas, but
if I get big enough to be a sponsor for a whole car, or if, like, say somebody else takes the hood, like Scott Ward does when it's one stop at Talladega and Chuck gets the sides back there, if I get lucky enough to get the sides and one side is damaged and the other is not, I'm getting that whole side for mine just because it's got Matt Man on it. That's all I'm saying. I've already told Jeremy that one's saved.
You're gonna bring your
care if I will follow the damn truck to the shop.
You're gonna bring your Sawzall right to the track and just cut that sucker right off right there.
No, I'm gonna follow it all the way to the shop and then I'll go get it. But I'm not gonna work on it at the track. But I'm here
to help you unload the car.
Yeah, I'll meet you over.
I'm picking up my contingency panel or quarter panel or whatever.
They get out and start heading to their truck just to leave it there to unload it. No, we got to get this out now.
He's on his way to Spartanburg. I heard about it.
Yep. So a 4-hour ride for me.
Yeah. So,
oh goodness.
Chad, we're getting close to wrapping things up, but one thing that we haven't talked about last time or this time is you also do you're a lead designer and a wrap specialist for Platinum Graphics. You had said that to us the last time we in episode 5 in our preparation for that. So I was just wondering if you could tell us about that and what all that entails.
Well, that is a project that is still in the works and making happen, but I do design most everything for that. And I am actually, the coolest part is I'm getting to teach a young man how to design and design it the right way. And he's also learning how to install the wraps, because I go and he helps me install whatever wrap we need to. And right now, if anybody calls and asks for me to install a wrap, I'm calling him. He's going with me because he's learning how. Is being able to pass that on to the next set of generation, because he's not even quite out of high school yet. So it makes it fun for me to be teaching somebody like that and the graphic side of the business. And that's the graphics business that he will end up having when everything's all said and done.
Oh, that's
So you're
awesome.
saying there's a chance that if I drive my car down there, I could leave with a pretty cool livery on my car.
Well, there's a pretty chance you could do that now and then get it printed wherever you wanted it printed, and then have somebody install it for you, or or we can just wait till one of the trips when I come up toward Charlotte, and I'll be happy to help you put it on.
So you're saying there's a chance. All right. Well,
Yeah, because I'm already designing. So if you want to, all you got to do is send me the information that you need, send me the logos and whatnot, and we'll get you in line.
You're gonna have like the Area 51 Racing Podcast race car driving around.
I'm saying there's a chance.
There's a chance.
There's a chance.
That's all you need is a chance.
Oh,
It's just like when you start the engine on a Saturday afternoon, there's always that chance.
yep. Yep. I was actually talking to was it Mark over at the Jeremy Clemens Racing, and they were just putting down I want to say it was the Atlanta car, or putting the vinyl wrap on it. It was somewhere in the mix, but you had just delivered all the new rugs for the shop, and I walk out with one of your old ones, and they wouldn't let it fly.
Nope.
Yeah, and it was right in front of Mark's toolbox, and he's like, I was like, so you got a nice shiny one there? He's like, I'm like, what are you gonna do with this old one? He goes, it'll sit right there. I'm like, yeah, makes sense.
So you didn't go, hey Mark, look over there.
Right. No.
He didn't think that quick enough.
No, I didn't.
Oh man.
But I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to get Jeremy to do some stuff with some of his older mats, and maybe not give them to the racing warehouse, but maybe put them up for auction on Facebook or Instagram or something like that, so that he can give a proceed to a charity, and then maybe we buy tickets for a race with some of that dollars up front, and let the auction take care of itself. And then he signs the back of the mat and sends it out to the people, and with the tickets for that said race at the same time, so that they could possibly meet Jeremy in person.
That'd be awesome. And I think I speak for Rob and Bobby. We'd love to promote that if that ever happens.
Absolutely, 100%. We would love to promote that. And there's,
I would
Judge Nation is huge, so and we're a bunch of crazy fanatics.
I would say one of them will probably end up at one of the three of our houses, and there would be somebody very mad at the house. If it's Rob, Bobby, I think you get away with it. But I think one of them would end up at one of our houses.
I'd have a nice mat to sleep on.
Well, especially if you laid it inside the doghouse, right?
Yeah, that's exactly where I'd be.
Yeah. See, we got a basement. That's where I'm at now. That's where my office is, and you can see the upstairs. The upstairs has no mats in it whatsoever, with the exception of anti-fatigue mats, which I made sure to give for my wife for cooking in front of the stove, in front of the dishwasher and the sink, and there's one in front of the washer and dryer. So that we've got somewhere that you can walk in there barefooted, or you can walk in there with shoes on, and you don't sit there on a hard surface with your feet or anything like that. So we moved them from our old house to this house when we moved in 2017, and those things have been a lifesaver. Even my daughter stole two of them from me. Otherwise, we'd have two in other places. But they do work very well, and the rest of the mats are actually outside on the front porch or outside in the garage before you come in, and the rest of them are in the basement, which is technically the man cave. You can see my Kentucky mural sitting right there. There's a whiteboard right there, but behind the whiteboard, it's a big blue wall with a big blue UK that I painted on it. And behind me, behind that white wall back there, is the real man cave. It's the race room. The cool part about the race room is it's got my 4-foot by 8-foot race table. And I sent it to Bobby yesterday, but I don't think I sent it to where, let me see if I can forward this thing right quick to.
Well, if you have the picture, you can screen share it if you want.
Well, yeah, but it's on my phone. That's what I'm having to do right quick.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Swap
I
it
have
from
no
my
idea how
phone.
to screen share, so
Let me get that in there and do that, and then I can open it and copy and paste it. And
It's got to be hard for you when you're a fan, but also work with the teams. You got to. I'm assuming you got to keep that balanced a little bit.
just a little bit, but I mean, it's really cool that I get to work with the team and work with other teams that have my mats in their trucks.
Yeah.
Jeremy helped me get in the doors, and then next thing I know, the mats I got. Well, Haley Deegan walks across hers that I got in her truck. Joey Gase and Frankie Muniz walk across theirs, and all three of the Jordan Anderson haulers walk across theirs in theirs. And to me, it's just cool as heck to know that some of these drivers are doing it. And then some of the ones that have called me to ask me can I get mats for my trailer too? I got a sprint car. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. called me December 30th, and it was kind of funny, but I got this tray of food ready to go cook outside, and the phone rings, pick it up out of my pocket, and I turn it around. It says Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I said, "Oh, Ricky Stenhouse Jr." Put the food tray down and said, "Y'all gonna have to wait. I ain't gonna cook yet. I got to take this call and show it everybody. Like, yeah, you see who's on my phone?" And then I answer it, walk outside. I made him wait 20 minutes while we talked about mats for his hauler. I mean, that's one of the moments you just geek out when certain people call you, because how do they get my phone number? And you find that out during the thing, but I ain't never called this guy. I ain't got his number, but it shows up on my thing and it identified as him. I hope somebody ain't pranking me, but and then when it finds out and he introduces himself, I mean, you just have those moments of like, no kidding, that guy just called me. It's kind of cool.
Right. Yeah. I'm just with the Stenhouse thing on there. I would have to say if I was gonna, have my name on there, it would definitely say Daytona 500 winning Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Yeah.
Well, see, that's the company he works for under mine now. So if he calls, it's going to have 2023 Daytona 500. It might not on his phone, but it does on mine.
Oh, I bet you he has it somewhere on his phone. He probably has maybe a screensaver or something.
Yeah. right, let's see. Where's that? There we go.
Speaking of
Sharing now.
Ricky, it might have been Steve Carnes that gave him your number. I know Steve. Steve is
Ricky,
friends with him.
Ricky, I did match for Steve to give to Ricky,
Mhm.
but Steve didn't give my number to Ricky.
Oh, okay.
Nick Hoffman, who lives next door, give my number to him because I did match back in December, early December for Nick Hoffman, both his elite chassis and his dirt late model team that he's on the Woo Tour with.
Yeah. So Nick Hoffman's your neighbor?
No, that's Stenhouse's neighbor.
Oh, Stenhouse's neighbor. I was like, holy cow.
I wish. I mean, I ain't that
Yeah.
cool yet.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But that's my race room right there.
Oh, wow.
That's cool stuff right there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That
Sorry,
is awesome.
Trying to look in there and in awe.
Yeah, if my wife saw that, she'd be like, he's got a problem too.
Oh goodness, he's got a problem too.
Yeah.
Where is it at? There we go. I mean,
yeah, that
it's
is awesome.
a little pixelated, but you can see some of the definitions of and make out what the cars actually are. So
yeah, a lot of history right there. That's amazing.
I was about ready to say that's a nice genre of cars.
Yep.
Yeah, all the way back to when they first started making these jokers. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, the AJ Foyt was one of the very first ones that they made right there.
Yep. That's amazing. Like I said before, that's when race cars were race cars.
Yep. Some of them, that's a fact.
Yep.
I was just looking down there at the old Caterpillar Dodge.
Yep.
Let's see. Your eyes might be a little bit better than mine because I'm still trying to find them.
The Ward Burton Daytona 500. I think it was.
Well, see, I got a lot of his stuff on the other side of this mat right here. I've got a whole different spot right there for those.
So for our viewers not able to see this photo, how many haulers and 164 cars do you have there, Chad, approximately?
There are over 1,200 cars there.
Wow.
And 400 and some, about 400 haulers.
That is just awesome. And then the table is shaped like a racetrack, yes, with a a pit area and everything. It's just awesome.
Well, and they're orange and white for a reason because you roll dice and move them.
Yeah.
We set up races quite often.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. That is really cool. So, but we're getting towards the end here. So just to reflect back on what we talked about with your businesses, the Mattman Designs, how would somebody reach out to you other than like getting hold of Nick Hoffman and asking for your phone number or Ricky Stenhouse Jr.?
Well, that's easy for that. You can either go to mattmandesigns.com or you can find us on Facebook as Mattman Designs LLC and Instagram same way. I forget if it's with or without the LLC on X, but we are there, and it should have all of our contact information with a email address, and it does have my phone number. You can get me pretty much most of the time during the days and whatnot. So it should be easy for that. Any other time you might find me at Dixie Speedway when they're racing, or Rome Speedway on the flag stand there, or maybe in the tower at Atlanta Motor Speedway, race directing Legends and Bandolero cars. but everything you could possibly do and easy to get to, you can text me on my cell number, which is on the web page, and you can message me through Messenger as well. And I do a lot of the proofing that way too, is set them up through text messages and stuff like that and Messenger. So
Awesome. So, one other thing, some of the viewers were asking, when, do you know when the throwback t-shirts will be for sale on Jeremy's website?
we are working on that part as to when they're going to be available. They have the artwork to put up. They just, and like the shirts will be here next week, and then we will start shipping them out, but I'm not sure. But Jeremy and Jason will be taking care of the website part and okaying the press release for that, which should be coming out very, very soon. So I just don't have an exact date for that.
Okay. And just to let our viewers know, we will, once we know, we will definitely share that on our social media platforms as well. So, everybody.
Yes. And you'll see it on Matt Man's too, because we want to get I mean, it's a limited number in limited sizes, and we want to move every one of them as fast as we can, because the proceeds go back to the race team just like anything else. And, you know, Jeremy doesn't have these big super souvenir rigs out there like some of the other ones do, and they get a little extra money that way. So we're trying to build that up starting this year with that kind of stuff, so that we can easily at some point maybe have 6 to 8 shirts for sale all year long next year or the year after. But we got to start slow, and we got to see what kind of response we get out of this first one, because I know for a fact this is the first shirt that has taken the time to be released in a very, very dirt late model, asphalt late model type manner of a design process for the shirt. I mean, it's sort of old school throwback, but yet the design's not on the front. It's going to be on the back. And to me, the graphics are just unparalleled to what some of what I've seen this year in those souvenir haulers. So I'm hoping it moves very well.
Oh,
Well,
I'm pretty sure it will.
Yeah, I think 2 have already sold, if not 3. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, Jeremy being the longest tenured Chevy driver, you would think that one of those merch haulers, I mean, some of the smaller teams sometimes will have shirts in those merch haulers at the track, for a specific driver or whatever. You would think that they would be able to work something out to have some of his merchandise available in there, but who knows? I guess that's above my pay grade and my ability to figure out.
All right. Think of this as your business venture, right? Say the shirt call is charging the customer $25 and $30, right? The cost you have into it might yield you a 30% profit margin at the end. 30% is not much on $25 and $30.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you're looking at 10 dozen shirts at 120 shirts, you know, that's still not a lot. Now, these guys that do these and they say that they get 120 just on a small size, and it goes up from there, and they are ordering 2,000 shirts at a time, right? Shirt cost goes down. The printing cost does not change, but yet their profit margin on those, selling them out of those haulers for $25 and $30, because the shrinking cost per shirt just went down, they're going to get closer to 50%. And then out of that 50%, you know, you may get to keep 40% of it, because 10% of it's got to pay the employees that work those weekends or pay for their travel to get there. And that's just one shirt. And if they got 15 to 20 different shirts in there, multiply that by 15 to 20, and then all the other merchandise that's in there with it, to where that markup might not be as great, but you've got to have at least 30 good products in there to make a souvenir hauler viable to make it work.
Yeah, I don't know. Just me thinking out loud, but yeah, so like I said, we'll definitely share that information once it's available to us, and we'll look forward to the press release. Continue doing the great work you're doing, Chad. Those banners are awesome. Like the one up here that I had from Road America last year. Bobby has the other one off the back of the pit box from Road America, and your mats and everything you do high quality, amazing work. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you at a track someday soon. And we appreciate you coming back on, being our first repeat guest on the Area 51 Racing podcast.
Well,
so you can
thanks
add
for
that as
having me.
another accomplishment on your resume.
That works.
All right,
Well,
Chad.
thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
And-
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We know you're a very busy man. You got a lot of stuff going on, but thank you again, and take care. We'll have you on again sometime.
All right. Thank you. Have a
All
great
right, take care.
evening.
Yep, you as well.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wow, that was an entertaining chat with Chad.
Yeah, what an interesting guy. What a very interesting guy. We had a whole list of questions to ask, and I don't think we hit half of them. I think we could come on a third time, and we still wouldn't run out of stuff to talk about.
Yep. No, it was just fun talking with him about being a race, flagman, and then his experiences from the flag stand and racing in general. It was fun to be able to talk about that. So so we're going to do start the next segment where we're going to do the race recap from this weekend for Jeremy Clements Racing at Talladega Speedway. The racing recap is brought to you by Action RV. We'd like to thank Matt and his staff, and Mike and his staff at Action RV for sponsoring in this segment. Where do we start with this past weekend with this race at Talladega for Jeremy Clements Racing?
I'm off next Wednesday, and I'll be throwing a horseshoe at JCR as I drive past, just to hopefully give them some luck. A P20 finish was not at all what that car was capable of by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, it was sad. I mean, once again, in that first stage, I mean, he started the race, qualified P22, 3 cars dropped to the rear, so he started P19. That first stage, he rode the outside lane quite a bit. That whole, I mean, they were pretty much single file, and outside against the wall was the one that was moving the most, pretty much, it seemed like. So he just pretty much rode around, and he let's see, I think it was lap 26. I think it was in that first stage, if I remember correctly, based on my notes here. Ryan Sieg, the number 39 car, and Parker Kligerman, the number 48 car. I don't know if their spotters didn't communicate fast enough, or they didn't listen, or what it was, but they decided to change lanes at the same time and meet in the middle. And Sieg pushed Kligerman into the rear end of Jeremy, and Jeremy went right into the wall, and that was the end of his day. Destroyed the radiator of not only his car, but I believe 12 total cars were involved in that wreck, which just sucks, because then you got to P35 finish in his first DNF of the year.
Yeah.
So,
which for Jeremy being a small team, I know the Daytona Talladega cars, the chassis are getting very, very, hard to find for the race team. So they're having to rebuild a lot of these, wrecked cars that are nowhere near his fault, and it just really sucks.
yeah, I
'Cause
mean,
you can see it. You can watch TV, when he's running, and I get ecstatic. When Jeremy's. I don't care if he's in 20th place. If he's in the column, I'm cheering. And I know you guys do too. But it even gets louder at the house when top 15. It gets crazy when it's top 10. When he finished sixth, I thought the house was coming down. So we need more of those. The good luck. Hey, everybody else runs out of gas. We need something to drop like that. And hopefully the short track next week, which we're going to Dover, the Monster Mile. So hopefully we can pick something up.
yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is the last three races. It was at Richmond, Martinsville, and now Talladega.
Yep.
Brandon Jones was in the 9 car, was involved in some way, shape, or form that in an incident on track that led to Jeremy's car being destroyed. This time it wasn't Brandon Jones's fault.
Right.
He just happened to be in front of the two clowns, I should say, that decided to change lanes at the same time for the same area of real estate and wadded up the field. So,
Right. But I think it was, as you described it earlier. I don't quite think it was the driver's fault. I think it was more, clear low, clear high, and that happens at the super speedways. And to be quite honest, that's why a lot of us watch Daytona, Talladega, now Atlanta, for unfortunate miscues like that. But it just happened that our driver got caught up in it this time, and kind of rips your heart out because we help support the team doing what we do.
right. Well, yeah, and we know based on our conversations with all the partners and the crew members, the pit crew members that we've talked to, we know how much and how hard they work and how much they put into it, that it's just gut wrenching when something like this happens. And
Right.
I listen to the scanner every week during the race, and it's like you heard a spotter. It was ahead of obviously the TV, so I'm like, oh no. It just gets quiet, and he goes, "We're junk. We're destroyed."
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no. And then it shows up on the TV, and I'm like, oh. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's sad. It's frustrating. And like you said, those chassis are Chip Ganassi chassis.
Yeah.
So, hitting a wall like that, the front stub, the rear stub is destroyed. The radiator was taken out. So, I mean, I don't know if they have a jig to make sure it's straight, or they just what they do. But I guess that's a good question to ask Mark the next time we have him on the show. But that it's just, yeah, it's sad to see when that happens. But and again, my brain is scattered tonight. It's Mark Podine that is the owner of Action RV. I apologize for calling you Matt and then Mike. There's too many people with M names that we've been talking to tonight, or talking about, or with, so I apologize, Mark. I didn't do it intentionally. I did that to the guys from Spartan Waste on one of the shows too. So I apologize for that. But yeah, the race, Xfinity race, like we were saying before, is always, in my opinion, the best race. It was a good race. Got a little crazy at the end. But that's plate racing at the super speedways. It's just everybody's trying to get the
It's one
W
inch.
and doing whatever they need to do.
Give me a mile, I'll take an inch.
Yeah, that's like I heard Corey LaJoy talk about coming to the off of 4 and that big wreck coming in to the start finish line where his car completely flipped over in the cup race. He said, I just put my foot, I saw him wrecking in front of me. I just put my foot to the floor and just held on and drove right into it. That's all I could do and hope I crossed the finish line.
Yeah,
he did.
It was almost like Cole Trickle where they said, hey, grab a gear, grab the outside and try to go around it.
Yep. And yeah, he was talking, it was on his Stacking Pennies podcast. I watched a clip of it and he said, yeah, the thing that hurt the most was the last rollover where it rolled from its side over onto the roof and then back onto it, the 4 wheels after it came to a stop on the front stretch. I'm getting all excited here and talking with my hands again.
Oh, believe
like
me,
Ricky Bobby.
Right.
but yeah, it's it's just it really sucked. It was. I look back at my notes. It was actually lap 67 that wreck was on with Brandon, where Jeremy got taken out of the race. So,
luckily, outside of was it Eric getting injured in the wreck, everybody was able to walk away. You could tell by the infield care center, a lot of them did get hurt. I think Allgaier was a little more hurt than, because the hit to the inside wall, that looked like it hurt a lot. But I'm just glad everybody was able to walk away, through all that melee. You got to remember these cars are flipping at 180 miles an hour, so we do give it to, the, crew chiefs, all the guys that design these cars, all the guys that design the chassis. We're talking about the cost of chassis here. But Jeremy walking away from the car and all these other Cup drivers, Xfinity drivers, Craftsman truck, they do an awesome job.
Yeah, when I saw that crash, Allgaier's crash, immediately I thought of a flashback to when Kyle Busch wrecked and hit the inside wall. I think it was Daytona, if I remember.
Yep, Daytona.
And he broke his leg. And I was like, oh my God, that this is going to be like a repeat. And
number one thing, safer barrier.
Yeah, I was just going to say the only difference was they had a safer barrier there, and thank God they did, because that was a hard crash. And thank God Justin was okay. Fortunately, Eric Jones in the Cup Series and his wreck, he wasn't so lucky. He ended up, they announced today, he got a fractured vertebrae in his lower back. So he's going to be out indefinitely, and Corey Heim is going to be filling in for him in his ride. So, anything else you want to talk about the race recap? I mean,
not so much. It was a bittersweet short race. It was exciting, all the way down to the finish. Pretty much in all 3 series. I think the finishes were good. Especially the truck and Xfinity series. That's about it. That was a good weekend of racing. I always liked Dega.
Yeah, it was good. Actually, trucks were off this week. It was ARCA that raced before.
Yep, I'm sorry. I remember.
Yeah, it was ARCA and then Xfinity and then Cup.
Yep.
So,
I remember that. I was cheering for Malcolm in the middle.
Yes. Yep. I wonder how many people are still recovering from Talladega Boulevard.
I actually got sent. It was like things that were left over at Talladega, and it was a 3-minute slideshow of Some unmentionables. You know, what was it? I think it was almost 100 yards of beer cans that they had found string from one hauler to the other. I didn't get that experience when I went to Dega, but I stayed in the campground outside the track. I would say it's still a bucket list to go to the infield if I ever get the time to while I'm still young.
Yes, that's a must.
Right.
So we're gonna wrap up this past week's race recap from Talladega for Jeremy Clements Racing. Sadly, DNF first one of the year, finished P35 as a result. And we'd like to thank Mark Podine and his team at Action RV for sponsoring the race recap of the week. If you have any RV parts needs, please look up Mark Podine and his Action RV team on the internet, and they'll hook you up. We're going to go on to the next thing. Is we're going to thank a couple of partners of ours that have put out some product or merchandise for us that allow us to continue to do this podcast and also in turn help sponsor and keep Jeremy on the track. If you haven't done so yet, go check out stickygears.com. Purchase one of our Area 51 Racing Podcast t-shirts. They're very nice and comfortable. A portion of the proceeds goes back to Jeremy Clements Racing to keep Jeremy and his team on the racetrack. Also, please check out Anna Moore Designs LLC for the Area 51 Racing Podcast merchandise. That awesome tumbler there that Dave has. I have one too that is a custom one that Bobby and I had made from Jeremy's win at Daytona. I'm sorry, at the Wawa 250. And she also makes garden flags. And give Anna Amore Designs send her a message and place an order with her. And then Dave, if you want to talk about the donation square deal that we got going on.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're doing a giveaway. All the proceeds go straight back to Jeremy Clements Racing. We're giving away a bumper similar to the one right behind me, full scale, signed by Jeremy Clements. I think we all talked and we were doing $30 a square. Now we are going to do 2 squares, $55. We really need your help with this, guys. We need to keep it moving along and pushing. We're getting really close. I want to see this bumper to go to somebody who is truly gonna love it. I love mine. Like I said, big old Chevy Camaro. What is it? 2024 Martinsville, if I remember right. Autographed right in the middle. Beautiful signature by Jeremy, silver ink. Very cool. So hit up either Rob, myself, or Bobby on either Facebook, Messenger. I think you have Instagram. So is Bobby. You can get to us by all different platforms or even on the Area 51 Facebook page. And we can reach out to you if you're interested. But it's a really cool big piece to have for if you got $30, $30. If you can get 2 for $55, it doubles your chances. We will be giving this thing away soon, so please get in contact with one of the 3 of us and make this happen. So we can keep supplying Jeremy with a little bit of money. It's not much, but hey, every little bit helps. Especially when you're a small podcast like ours, and you're a small team like Jeremy's. Every penny helps.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Dave. The other thing, speaking of sponsors or partners that help us out, Elite Towing. Jamie Smith, Dave and I both have these custom diecast, 124 diecast. Just got mine. I think it was yesterday. Dave's got his there. If you would like one, they're also made in 1/64 scale. If you want one, get a hold of Jamie at Elite Towing and message him, and he will hook you up. They're awesome. Looks really well. It looks even better in person than the photos that were on social media. And
100%.
the green, it's hard to see, but the green chrome number is just awesome. So the next thing we would like to thank our partners who make the podcast possible: Beach Ridge Barbershop, Spartan Waste, Impel Union, Alliance Driveway Solutions, First Pacific Funding, Elite Towing and Recovery, Whitetail Smokeless, Fly Inform Concrete Structures, Runner's Roost, Matman Designs, Action RV, Boost Pops, and of course Jeremy Clements Racing and Jeremy Clements. None of this would be possible without Jeremy and Jeremy Clements Racing. So with that, I'd like to thank Dave for joining me tonight.
Yep.
It was a great show.
Thank you, Rob, for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks to Chad, Matman Designs. It was a fun and entertaining show tonight. Looking forward to our show next week, which will be on next Tuesday, April 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. I don't know who the guest is going to be yet, but Bobby will be back, and he will let us know who the guest or guest for the podcast will be at that time. So until then, thank you everybody for joining in, and we will see you next week. Peace.
See you guys.
See ya.